Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Haley's YouTube channel. Today we're doing Chapter 5, Early Olympians. Please make sure you open up the document below to follow along with me. Early Olympians. The ancient Greeks believed that strong bodies and sports pleased the gods, so they honored the gods with sporting events and contests. The Olympics began as a festival to honor Zeus. The first Olympics were held in 776 BC. They were held in Olympia, the city-state of Elis. The early Olympics were very simple. There was only one event. Runners ran a foot race called the stade. We get the word stadium from the Greek word stade. And yikes, the earliest Olympic athletes wore tunics and later they competed without clothes. Over the years, other sports were added. People traveled from all over to see the games. The Olympics became the most popular festival in Greece. Messengers. The Olympics were held every 4 years. They lasted 5 days. The games were always held during the hottest months of the summer. As the time drew near, messengers left Elis. They traveled all over Greece. It was their job to announce the date for the games. The messengers were easy to spot. They wore cloaks and carried wands. Who would compete? Only Greek citizens could compete in the Olympics. No one who had committed a crime could compete. Women and slaves were not allowed to be in the games. Each city-state chose its best athlete to send to the Olympics. They came from all over Greece. Some were simple shepherds or fishermen. Others were powerful generals and businessmen. Their skills in sports made them all equal at the games. Athlete, from the Greek word that means to compete for a prize. So Jack took some notes down that said, First Olympics, held in Olympia, festival for Zeus, Greek citizens, no criminals, and no girls or slaves. Calliopetra. There was one woman who didn't obey the rules. Her name was Calliopetra. Her father and brother were Olympic winners. After her husband died, she trained her son for the Olympics. Calliopetra dressed up like a man to watch him compete. She walked boldly into the stadium. When her son won, she leapt over a barrier to congratulate him. Her clothes got tangled, they became loose, and it became clear she was not a man. But Calliopetra was lucky because she was from a famous family. She was not punished. The Olympic truce. There were a lot of wars in ancient Greece. City-states fought each other. They also fought other countries. And in order to hold the Olympics, all wars had to stop. A truce was called. A truce means no fighting. There were rules at the Olympic truce. All wars must stop for 3 months during the Olympic training and the games. Armies and men with weapons cannot enter the Olympic grounds. There was no death penalty during the Olympics, and athletes can pass safely through any city-state on their way to the games. Training. Athletes trained 9 months at home before the Olympics began. They trained with coaches. Their coaches carried long sticks. They used them to point out the correct muscle to use. Some trainers liked their athlete to practice to flute music. They felt it gave them rhythm and grace. This vase shows the trainer with its stick. So as you can see, this is the stick here, and he's pointing to the correct muscles that they need to use for the particular event they're doing. As the Olympics drew near, athletes and their trainers began the long journey to Olympia. Some went by boat, others walked or rode horses. Arrival at Elis. After their journey, the athletes arrived at the town of Elis near Olympia. This was their training ground for another month before the games. 10 men met the athletes in Elis. They were the Olympic judges. They wore purple cloaks. They had laurel wreaths on their heads. The judges made sure the athletes obeyed the rules. They divided the athletes into age groups. Athletes usually competed with people in their own age group. So Annie over here is telling us that Elis was the town in the city-state of Elis. And if anyone cheated, he was punished with a fine or beating. Yikes. Then the athletes had to sand and weed the tracks before they could practice. 2 days before the games began, the athletes, coaches, and judges left for Olympia in a great procession. Turn the page to see how you would train in ancient Greece. Train like the ancient Greeks. Number 1, get someone to play the flute while you exercise. Number 2, go to the gymnasium to practice. You could also practice in the fields, just watch out for goats. Number 3, if you need quick energy, eat grapes, figs, honey, or goat cheese. And number 4, be the best you can be. So take a minute, listen to the video if you need, and then in your fact tracker, please tell me at least 3 things you learned from this section.